Question: how do you succeed if your best life, reach your highest potential with all of the weight and the stress, the anxiety from life experiences and trauma weighing you down? Let's get into it, man. Y'all know what I'm here to do, man. This is the New Religion Network. I'm Simmons, man. Teach and reveal. That's what I'm here to do, man. So we're going to get into it, right? Now, last episode, we touched on habituation, right? This episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it, right? So follow me. Welcome to the Mental Department of Health, y'all. So simple, right? What is habituation, right? It's basically just like when your brain stops reacting to traumatic situations, right? We have, let's just say, sort of mental coding that kicks in when we are hyper stimulated or in those situations that are traumatic, that are not normal. Could be violent situations, could be extreme, whatever, poverty. Lots of those situations, are traumatic. People react to different situations in different ways. But it's basically a physical condition where your brain no longer reacts the same way to being in trauma, right? And there's kind of a flip side to that, which I'll get back into later, the comfortability in conflict. But before we get to that, and basically why your brain does that is to protect yourself, right? It's to protect your body, right? So your brain is actually working to protect you, right? It's like a thermostat in the car that stop you from overheating. Because if you keep piling on the stress and your brain does react to it, then you would explode, right? So your brain kind of shuts down, right? But what happens when you shut down, like I touched on in episode 2, we have 3 components. I like to understand the 3 components in relation to each other. And those are mind, body, and spirit. But they're all governed separately by their own rules. Just like it's nothing, and some people might want to argue about this, but it's nothing, is a limit. Okay, I'm not going to say nothing. There's a limit to what you can do spiritually that will affect you physically. Meaning, like, if I want to work out and get my chest and get a 6-pack, I could pray to the heavens in. I'm not going to have a 6-pack unless I actually eat good and work out, right? So we have to understand that there's certain things in the physical realm that we have to act in accordance with. And it's the same thing with the mental and with the spiritual. And that's why I think a lot of people don't understand mental health, because, a lot of people, whether spiritual or physical, just think that those strengths in any of those areas could have you mentally strong. But we got to understand that we have a brain that is governed by its own rules that we have to cater to individually. It's not nothing you could do physically. It's nothing you can do spiritually. You have to maintain your brain, your thoughts, processes, your experiences, the things you're seeing, the things that's happening to you that is actually being downloaded into your brain, into your subconscious, and it's coming out in more ways than you would even realize, right? So to let that get out of whack and let that get unattended, it's detrimental to every other part, because the brain is a muscle as well, right? So muscles have memory, right? So just because your brain is experiencing that habituation into shutting down and not allowing the full experience of that trauma, your body still is, your spirit still is. Right? So these things can lead to physical illness, but definitely to behavioral illnesses that's going to stop you from living your best life and reaching your highest potential, right? So that's why it's so important. And just, just to kind of explain it. And this is why I got into psychology, trying to understand. And the catalyst for me was, changing my whole mindset, right? And then, I didn't initially go to school for psychology. I went for social work, right? But I took a psychology class. One of my first classes was a psychology class, and I just fell in love with psychology. I switched my major and I wasn't looking back. But anyway, firsthand experience, right? Going through these situations. I grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, right? 81, right? September 1981, right? This is South Jamaica, Queens. We talking Supreme Team, Fat Cat, and we're talking about the height of, this is 1981. This is New York City prime, the crack epidemic. This is the prime. My parents were involved in that game heavily, was with those. Is actually, I'll share down the lines in some more episodes, but my mom is actually, and this is crazy because I was just strolling down YouTube and seeing this story. It was a story on my mom, and I just happened to click on it. I didn't even know it was my mom. It said crack queen to crack fiend, and I was like, oh wow, and I clicked on it. And the first image I seen was a lady walking down the block talking. It was my mother. It was like a 1988 interview from when she, got out of prison and got clean, and then people did a story on her. Actually, I don't want to say like father, brothers, cousins. My family was involved in that life, right? So the point is that I was born into a situation of such violence, right? In hindsight, learning who I naturally am, I would say now I will understand myself as, I'm not a confrontational person, but I'm a strong-willed person, and I'm not a coward. So in the environment I grew up in, I adopted the mindset that because I didn't have any positive role models that were strong and positive, I kind of seen, in the crime world, it's it's the dog eat dog mentality, the crab in the bucket mentality. So I didn't even know that I had a A, B, or C option where I could be strong and a upright person and a respectable person and still be positive, non-confrontational, and follow my heart. I thought that, you either had to be a tough guy or you was a coward, right? So assuming that, right, I had to put myself in a lot of conflict. And even conflict I didn't put myself in, just being around. If I'm not going to back down from a conflict, or this is a troubled environment, this is low poverty, this is high stress, this is a very high conflict area and situation I grew up in. So to be somebody that doesn't like conflict but is willing to take conflict, now as I reflect and unpack my own trauma, even from childhood, it goes deep, and those things shaped and molded my mentality. Still to this day, I can get enraged. Not as often as I once did, because I have more self-control and I'm more aware of my situations and my emotions. But, those habits, that habituation, those physical habits, those still lingers. I'm still a work in progress. And that's how that works. Knowing and understanding, still having so much trauma and things to unpack, but now being able to, you know, unpack things or not let certain things in real time affect me is so beneficial to my mental health and my perspective in life. Therefore, my lot in life and everything that I have, the way I can nurture relationships, the way I can be there for my kids, the way I can attend to my business, the way I can be consistent with my podcast, the way I can be on top of my studies and my psychology classes, the way I can pursue this doctorate degree. That's why it's so important. Forget my brand, my life's mission, because my brand is just a reflection of my life's mission, right? And my life's mission is to equip others with that knowledge, because knowledge saves your life, because life is all about perspective, right? And you can learn things that can change your whole perspective. Therefore, you can learn things that'll change your life. So, teach and reveal is real, man. So, we gonna open your eyes up, teach and reveal. Like we touched on with 50 Cent, comfortability and conflict, with the beefing with his son, the beefing with everybody in G Unit. It could break those ties because you're more comfortable in conflict, because peace and a loving situation is uncomfortable for you. That's not what you're used to. Change is scary, even if that change is better. Even if that change goes from conflict and no family to family and peace and unity and success, and no one to fight and no one to bully and no one to punch in the face and no one trying to kill you. Sometimes that's uncomfortable, right? And we have to recreate that. We have to stay in the mindset, because if I feel like, if I'm not aggressive, if I'm not angry, if I'm not hating somebody, if I'm not pushing someone away, then what am I doing? Who am I? Am I still the same person, or am I, So it's that kind of thing, right? I didn't like that I mentioned 50 name. I did the episode, and when I put it out, it was in the middle of all this stuff he had going on with T.I. and all of that. And I almost didn't even want to put the clip out because I'm like, this is bad timing. Usually people like, oh, it's good timing, but I don't even want to be nowhere near involved with gossiping about people or talking about people or even putting my 2 cents into anybody else talking about somebody. I want to share this video. Or maybe I'll just put the link in the bio. It's Maslow. He's a psychologist who came up with okay, let's make this quick. Okay, well, I was trying to look it up, but maybe I'll just put a description in the bio, or maybe not. Just look it up. All right, Abraham Maslow, and it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's a psychological theory, right, from like 1940 something, right, that basically says what we all know, that in order to reach your self-actualization, there's a hierarchy of needs that one person needs in order to be in a space where they can reach what is self-actualization, right? Which is like your full potential. Potential is also another psychological theory too. That's humanistic psychology. But, and those needs are not in this exact order, but safety, food, clothes, and shelter, right? You need a sense of belonging, right? You need like a community. Things in that order, right? I don't want to butcher it. It has been expounded upon a few times. I'm not trying to teach you Maslow's theory. I'm just trying to explain that there's psychological theories to support the fact that without clarity in our lives to an extent, then we are basically setting ourselves up for failure. And that's just to reiterate the point of mental wellness, right? Mental health and being aware, emotionally aware of things. Sometimes we can't control the world around us, people around us, and emotions and how certain things may affect us. We may have triggers, right? So listen, it's not to say don't get stressed out or don't experience trauma or don't have bad experiences. I can't tell you that. You're going to live life and you're going to have those bad experiences. It's not the thing to avoid them. Well, it is the thing to avoid them to a certain extent, because what you want to do is keep people around you, and you have to guard your energy, right, to a certain extent, right? So if you know someone is a trigger for you, if you know a place is not welcome, if there's going to be like for me, if I don't like conflict, I understand that I don't like conflict, but I also understand that there's other sides to the coin. There's people who love conflict. And I may be in a situation where it doesn't matter if I like conflict or not. I'm going to have to defend myself. So I just accept the fact that I don't like conflict, but that don't mean that I don't have to do it. But at the same time, I'm going to do everything in my power to not put myself in a position to even have a conflict, right? So I don't have to handle a conflict and then deal with the trauma and deal with the unease that it has brought me internally because I had to go somewhere where I didn't want to go. You feel me? So we have to do that too. We have to take responsibility for people, places, and things, situations that we put ourselves in, so we don't put trauma in our life, so we don't put ourselves in bad situations, right? If that makes any sense, right? Listen, man, Simmons, man, y'all know what it is. I ain't gonna hold y'all up too long, man. TNR is the network. Next episode, next week. You see we doing this once a week consistently. Follow me on everything. It's Simmons, BONDSSIMMONS on all platforms. You'll see TNR Wear, link in the bio in any of those platforms as well, too. So, email bondsimmons@tnrwear.com for some merch, man, too, man. You heard? Email bondsimmons@tnrwear.com. Y'all know what it is. TNR, the new religion. Teach and reveal. Y'all know what I'm here to do. Teach and reveal. Peace and love. See y'all next week. Habituation. Take care of yourself, y'all. All right? Love.